Welcome to another episode of The Diplomats. It's episode 50. And to celebrate our 50th episode, we have a website, thediplomats.net. I'm joined here by my partner in crime, Umble, who is responsible for diplomacybriefing.com. And diplomacybriefing.com sponsors our podcast, our website, everything. Although I should say any money you donate to the briefing does not go to the website or to me personally or to Umble personally. It goes all into the hobby. Umble, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Tell us about the briefing.
Yes, the briefing is really the way to stay connected to the diplomacy hobby. It's a weekly zine zine, I should say, that keeps everyone updated on anything new that's happening, whether there's tournaments that are scheduled for the future, and that's online or face-to-face, or whether there's new variants to come out or new strategy articles. It always includes a strategy article in the briefing itself. And it's just the way that if you want to know what's going on to stay connected, it's free. You can go to diplomacybriefing.com, sign up through email, which is, I would say, the best way to get it. But we also have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And I will note, who is the sponsor of the August 6 diplomacy briefing?
Yes. Yeah. Go Horns is definitely a big part of helping the briefing be financially sustainable on its own. And so greatly appreciate that aspect of it. And of course, all the Patreons, we have 18 that donate different amounts, and that's helping us be able to move into the next phase where we bring on editors. And so I'm in conversation with a few people right now about what that would look like to have a good editorial team. So supporting the briefing helps make that possible. And so I'll encourage those that really are getting a lot from it to, throw a few bucks our way, and that'll go towards the hobby.
All right. Well, I'm happy to do it. Although I should say, as a narcissist, I would like to see a greater recognition of me somehow. I think it's kind of hidden. You've camouflaged it, but I felt like it was important to bring to our listeners. But here we're going to be talking about my second game of the Virtual Liberty Cup that occurred on August 1st, 2020. We've already gone over the first game I had where I was a powerful 5th out of 7. Umble has dissembled my performance in that game, and now we're going to go into this next game, and you can see the players here. Umble, what I can tell you before I started the game was, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. I knew I was 5th. I knew I had to probably solo to finish, in the top 3. I doubted a solo would even, get me that. And that sort of affected my mental thought process. So I was really went into this game trying to have fun more than doing anything else. But my guess is that's not how you approach any game. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. As far as just trying to,
have a good time. Well, no. I'm not saying have goodbye, but like have a good time, meet other people, and improve play. That's not why you play diplomacy.
Well, I mean, I enjoy doing those things off the board, but yeah, when I get on the board, I want to have the best game I can possibly have. And whatever route that takes, sometimes that route is we're going to be allies the whole game. Sometimes that route is there's an opening to, go for a better result. But no, I'm a pretty competitive person. I grew up with brothers, and we were always competing against each other. It's just kind of a part of who I am and what I enjoy. So anyway, that's something that I try to make sure that always I'm going for the best result. So I think people appreciate that because if you know someone's going for the best result, then it's easy to play with those people. Where people that have other motivations to playing can sometimes be very frustrating. So at least for people like me.
Well, let me clarify. I'm not going in to lose, but I'm not going to get upset if I don't do super well because I know I'm essentially out of the tournament at this point. And, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody in my diplomacy game. I play for fun. But I am also a competitive person, as as you very well know. So I appreciate that. Maybe I'm a little older, so I have a less competitive instincts than I used to. But in any event, here were the players, and I'll just give you a brief
Can I
summary of.
say something?
Yes,
Can I say
yes,
something real
yes.
quick? Yeah, just so everybody knows, Go Horns is setting up to he's setting up right now to give I think a justification perhaps for a not so good finish. I'm not
You
positive
think
on this because I don't
you think I
I
metagame this one?
I I'm not saying metagame. You know, everybody likes to set things up with an excuse why perhaps I didn't do as good as I could have.
Wow,
So that's what like to me. That's
wow.
yeah, I know. That's what it's sounding like to me, that you're kind of setting up for a disappointing finish. Though I don't know how you did in this game, so perhaps you're really sharing your heart there. But the cynic in me thinks that that's not going to be the case. We shall
All
see.
right, we shall see. Well, I drew Italy, which is for me a tough power to solo on, and I've done it, as you know, in season 2 in the preliminaries. But I generally don't play a great Italy, and when I've done it, it's mostly when I've been as I've written before, a complete jackal, which I don't like to play. But I've done so many of these games with you, I really started thinking about Italian strategy and how I can improve. So I wasn't disappointed to get a chance to put some of that into action. The first talk I had was with Austria. Uh, we hit it off right away. I really liked Austria, and we both stressed the urgency of not dot grabbing the other, and that an AI alliance can be super powerful, but if one just, if we start fighting each other, we're just going to be fodder for, the East and then the West. And I really like that opening conversation with him, and I hit it off with him pretty well.
This is
Turkey,
all.
pardon?
This was Austria, you said?
Yes, Austria. My
Did
next, yeah, go ahead.
did you bring Germany at all into those discussions?
Not the two of us didn't talk directly to Germany, but each of us spoke to Germany. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, Germany really pressed for a DMZ of Tyrolia, which
Sure.
Austria didn't. Uh, and I had ideas of moving to Tyrolia,
Hmm.
but but I agree with Germany, not to do that, and
Hmm.
but Germany also was a nice guy, and you'll see a little later on what happens with Germany. I speak to Turkey next, who was Nikolai Sahugay, former world champion. He and I played, if you remember, in virtual DixieCon when I was Austria, he was England, and we shared the board top in that game. Uh,
Another accent. Yeah, those that know, he has a soft spot. If someone has an accent, he just likes to do what they say. So, just a little tip: if you're ever on a board with Go Horns, just pull whatever accent you got out of it. He's a sucker for that. So I
I am a sucker for a good accent and a French accent. I mean, Nikolai just sounds so persuasive because he's got the accent, and I like a pedigree. But on the other hand, he's Turkey, right? So I'm Italy.
yeah.
It's not a natural alliance, but he and I had played well together in the past. He brought that up. We sort of hit it off, and he said, "Look, I'm a very patient turkey. That's how I, play the game. That scares me when I hear that."
All
Uh,
right. Well, I'm very patient before I kill you. So
right? That's
don't worry. I'm not gonna rush you. I'll kill you when the time comes.
then it was sort of a discussion with Turkey about, well, I go, look, Nikolai, how do you see an IT being successful, on this in any game? I've had problems with it, Humble, and I asked him what he thought, and he goes, "It's easy. I build armies and you build fleets, and and that's what we'll do." And so we sort of hit it off. We certainly didn't appear to be enemies at that point, but I'm very wary of Turkey as Italy, and I hit it off with Austria. So I felt like I had a good path either one. As you know, I like a strong alliance. I'm an alliance player. So then I talked to Russia because you've really got me, uh, you know, not convinced is the word, but you've sort of sold me on the Wintergreen alliance. So I wanted to talk with Russia and get a feel for him. Why
If
do
you're
you like the Wintergreen so much?
Yeah, if you're going to solo, I would say being able to navigate the wintergreen so you come out on top of that is what you're going to need. If you do an AI as Italy, and it's a strong AI, it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for you to solo if Austria, unless they open themselves up to you in a incredibly baffling way. Whereas Russia, Russia is going to have a lot of problems with their neighbors if you two split up Austria. So you're going to have a good option. I think if you're going to solo, that wintergreen is probably the easiest way to get there. And again, it's not always the safest way, but it is the easiest. And you've got to be careful on that too, because it also is a very helpful way for Russia to solo too. So you've got to be able to balance that. But yeah, as Italy, as Italy, I'll play good alliances with Austria, but I probably prefer setting up an Austria, Russia, Italy alliance from the get-go and just getting Turkey out of the picture. It gives you options. It's not that you can't work with Turkey, but it gives you a lot more options. So yeah, I like that idea of setting up a long-term. Well, first of all, I love setting up side alliances regardless. So I like setting up side alliances with everybody, but a wintergreen is something that, for me, I really enjoy.
So Russia, I could tell was young, maybe a teenager or early 20s, named Sam Feldman, extremely earnest. When somebody just has a voice of credibility, I really liked them. We hit it off the bat, and I mean, one of the lies that everyone tells themselves is that they're a good judge of character, especially on a diplomacy board. But I felt like, okay, I really like Austria, Russia, and Turkey here. My preference was for an AIR alliance for the reasons that you just stated. And then briefly, I talked to France. He and I just joked around a bit. I could tell by the way France talked that he was confident in his play. So I'm like, all right, let's keep an eye on him. Germany was friendly. Didn't speak a lot with England, although I was told by Turkey how good, I think it's David Miller, but it's D. Miller nonetheless, was, especially in face-to-face tournaments as England. And that was who we had to really watch out for. And as you know, I don't really know all these people yet in the diplomacy world. I'm just learning.
I played with face-to-face back in 2019, and so yes, he's a good player. I think he won DixieCon maybe a year ago or two. So yeah, I really like him. He's a good player. I think he's one of those guys that he's going to do well, and if you gang up on him, it's still going to probably take you some time. He's not going to make mistakes. So yeah, definitely that's a name that jumped out. I believe I played with Wes before also. It'll be interesting to see. I think I played with him on a board where he was Italy and I was England, and he got eliminated. And he went early for France. One of the things as Italy or France, when I'm talking with the other, that I really like to stress, which is true, that I'll focus on my side of the board, because an early Italian attack on France, I guess, is workable, but definitely an early attack on Italy from France, I think, cannot be as workable, and you're not going to get a lot from it. So that's something that I think is always really, really important.
The thing that I kept coming back to in my mind was I've only played, this was my 5th virtual game, and I believe in 4 of them there was a Western triple. It seems to be a very popular option in the virtual world as compared to the online world. I don't know about the face-to-face world. And so this was sort of in the back of my mind a bit. Here were the spring 1901 moves. Are you able to see them, Humble?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I imagine the bounce in Piedmont is of interest.
Yeah, yeah. Was that arranged or?
It was arranged. The reason being, Austria really wanted me to move to Piedmont. Obviously, I had agreed not to move to Tyrolia or Trieste. I could have held if I wanted to, but I wanted to show Austria that I would do it. And so I called up France and was like, look, I really want to stay in Venice. I don't know your situation if you're moving to Burgundy, and I don't want to hurt your situation with Spain. I'm moving to Piedmont. Why don't you just bounce me there if you're confident of getting Burgundy? And he said, okay. So I did that because I wanted to be close to Austria in case I did decide to go with Turkey or Russia and do an alliance that way. And I thought it preserved me some options. Everything else on the board looks pretty standard, I would think.
Yeah, everything is nothing surprising there at all. I mean, it'd be interesting how Germany felt about that move to Burgundy. But because it's not as friendly for Germany, and you almost maybe should have gone to Picardy in that instance, I would think. If you're going to play that way, probably go to Picardy. Again, in these face-to-face tournaments, Germany seldom moves to Burgundy. I personally have not seen it happen in any of my games. Now, it may have happened once in the
you
tournament.
did it.
No. I mean Germany going to Burgundy.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And that's just another thing to consider that's just different than online play. Germany can be more aggressive in online than face-to-face. So maybe it's just interesting. We'll see how that goes long term with him moving to Burgundy and what's going to happen. I'm interested to see that. But other than that, everything's incredibly vanilla. So people keeping up their options.
So here we go into the fall of 1901. Mm-hmm. I arranged a bounce with Austria in Trieste for no particular reason, but Austria was fine with it. I don't remember who suggested it. I convoyed to Tunis to keep my option open for the Lepanto. Austria gets into Greece, no problems. And then Austria, I think, arranged that with Russia at that point. But you see that Russia gets into Sweden, and France gets two builds, and France supported England into Belgium.
That's interesting. I feel like I've seen a lot more aggressive Turkey taking the Black Sea fall 1901, which maybe I should put a little thing there and talk about this, because sure. I've been seeing a lot of Russia's get in trouble because Turkey's taken the Black Sea in fall 1901. So let me give you maybe a tip for the Russian players on how to make that not happen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I've had this done to me when I was Turkey, though I ended up attacking Russia anyway. But there was meta considerations for that tournament, why I was focused on them. But anyway, it was really good. The Russian player said, look, I'm supporting Sevastopol to Romania. And here's the thing. If you move into the Black Sea, I will be building a fleet, and we can fight this the rest of the game. I'm going to trust you. So don't take the Black Sea, and I won't build another fleet. And it can seem a little bit suicidal to say it, but most Turkish players are going to say, I don't want to be fighting over the Black Sea this way, and they won't take the Black Sea. So that's a little diplomatic trick that you can do that I think can give Russians more space. I've just seen Turkey constantly be getting the Black Sea or getting into Sevastopol. And it's maybe not always so anti-Russian, but it definitely is giving Turkey a much stronger position than Russia would want. And it's just that you either get Romania or you lose the Black Sea. And I think the better way, perhaps, I had this said to me by a Russian player, and I was like, that's a pretty good way to go about it. So it's and it was a very, very good player who said it too. So I
think that's a great tip. And I'm going to utilize that in the future because I've been in that pickle before, and it's such a challenge for Russia. So I like that idea. That's a great idea. Appreciate that. Mm-hmm. At this point in the game here, you can see the builds. I build a fleet. Turkey builds a fleet, which I think is expected, even though he was very clear about I build armies, you build fleets, but I wasn't too upset about that. Nothing really here out of the ordinary except for no fleet build by Germany.
And you convoyed an army also to Tunis, and so yeah, he has to build a fleet. Now, perhaps if you'd taken that with another fleet, perhaps you could have probably convinced him to do the army. But when you convoyed, he has to build a fleet. There's no option there.
So the disturbing thing here is right before in this game the builds were not you weren't allowed to negotiate on builds and retreats with anybody. In the fall, before the moves processed, France reached out to me and said, I have to build a fleet in Marseille. He goes, I'm telling you that now before anything happens. I have to do it. England's demanding it. That's how I got England to build an army in London. And I go, are you 100% moving to Spain? He goes, 100%, not a doubt in the world about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. I mean, what are you supposed to do at that point? You have no options, but you just try and keep friendly with them. It's not a good move, but he goes, that's what he negotiated with England. And I'm looking at all this and I'm like, is there a Western Triple going on? What's happening? I wasn't sure, but
here's my assessment. So I definitely, if you're Germany, I don't think this is going to end up going well for Germany, because two armies from England. Oh man, it's almost like the way everybody built. Like France is going to be happy with England. And, Germany and England, you build those armies, they've got to go somewhere. But, France is going to be a little worried about Germany's builds, because you want to be able to kind of. It's really interesting how both of them built. Both building armies, everybody built in a way that kind of, at least one of them is going to be a little nervous. So France has to be nervous about Germany. Germany's got to be nervous about England. I guess England is not that nervous. He's got the most space to operate. So that's a plus there for David Miller. But yeah, that's very, very interesting with how they played that. I wonder, but you couldn't negotiate builds. That makes things harder. But it sounds like so France told you before he took anything. Is what you're saying is he told you about Marseille, that he was going to build there?
He did.
Interesting. Okay.
He did. So I build my fleet in Naples, preserves all my options. Now we're getting ready for the spring 1902. Turkey wants me to convoy to Albania, and then get into Greece. I'm dealing with Austria here on what Austria wants to do. And I'm also talking to Russia. At this point, Russia's got an army in Galicia and Romania. And I still really like Austria, still really like Turkey, and I still really like Russia. But when I talk to Russia, I'm like, Russia, what are your thoughts here? And I'm trying to get information. Who do you like? And he goes, I like Turkey and Austria 51-49, about equally. And I'm like, okay, that's sort of where I'm at. And I'm not usually an equivocator. I pretend to be an equivocator to get more information, but I don't, I usually have an idea. This time I really was equivocating, and I've got France here. But so far, I pitched to Austria the idea of convoying to Albania, and he's like, why would you do that? And I sort of said, well, you're going to go into he goes, that makes no sense. So let's just force the Aegean. And I'm like, okay, you're right about that. And but Russia goes, I really like Turkey. He goes, that's my 51 on the 49. I'm like, well, Turkey's a world champion. He's in the corner. He might eat us up. And his only way that Turkey can solo, which he needs to do to win the tournament, I think he ended up in the top 3 or 5. Is Moscow, Warsaw, and he goes, we'll get Turkey next, and I'm like, okay,
Naive. Yeah, that's just naivety. Because first of all, Turkey moved to the Black Sea and moved to Romania. That's incredibly anti-Russian, and it to even at this point, it's actually some of this is coming back because the Russian player had a little bit of a conversation with me about that game. And I said, at this point, you should just have been telling Austria and Italy hey, I will support you into Bulgaria. You guys focus there. You should have been making those deals because Turkey very obviously was not doing you any favors. So that's mind-boggling that Russia would be good with Turkey. And he shouldn't be telling you that anyway.
So he tells me that, and I'm like, well, I don't have an ally to attack Turkey. I have Austria who's going to do that, but I don't have Russia. So I said, all right, I'm good relations with Austria, and sorry, with Turkey. So, boom, I convoy to Albania and tap Trieste in case.
Wow.
There, and I move my fleet up to Apulia, but
wow.
So here were these moves. You can see that Greece entered a support order for me to the Aegean, which I could have took and I didn't take.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard because with Russia telling you that, I mean, it immediately tells you that this is a Russian player that's not very confident on what to do because he's being played by Turkey in just with what happened in the fall. At least that's my assessment. He's not obviously the one that's dictating anything. I don't know. I would almost say if I had a Russian player say something to me like that after what Turkey did, I would probably say I got to stick close to Austria. But I don't know what, you might have a better read of what Turkey's going to do, but I would probably, it's hard because you got France doing their thing. It's probably, that might be a time to just convoy that army to Apulia and move a fleet to Tyrrhenian Sea and just say, okay, I'm going to see what happens and then make my move. That might have been an option to think through. I think that's probably what I would have done in this situation. Convoy out, move a fleet to Tyrrhenian Sea and just say, okay, let's see what's going to happen. I think I would have done that because this is going to leave you with almost probably in some ways like you have to go for Turkey.
So if you look at the board moves right now, France holds Marseille. He tells me he's going to do that before. And I said, you told me 100% you're going to Spain. And he goes, I know, but England's making me hold it. But he doesn't tell me about Portugal to Spain. Now I see 2 fleets there.
Yeah, he did go to Spain.
Yeah, he did. Correct. Just not with the right fleet. And I've convoyed my army out. I'm sort of glad I didn't go for Turkey at this point, force the Aegean because of these French fleets, but I did vacate Tunis.
What's the point? Just you're going to go to the Adriatic. You're committed to hit Austria then?
At this point, correct. Okay. But notice that I'm sorry, say it again, Humble.
I think choosing Russia to kind of be because it looks like you're thinking you're going to follow Russia's lead, kill Austria, and then try to get Turkey. From what I'm seeing, I think I think he's going to be the wrong one to ride with. And of course, I know kind of what happens to Russia, but that would have been my assessment regardless of that. But we'll see.
Before now, I see these Russian moves, right? And and I'm like, Russia, what happened? He's like, I got to protect my own. The deal's off. I'm not against you. I'm not against Austria. I'm not against Turkey. I'm not against you. I'm just against Germany. Look what Germany's done to me, and everything's over between us. And I'm like, okay. So now I have no, Russian support, and Austria's going to be free. I got France moving in. It's another Western triple that I have to face. This time is Italy on the front that I'm looking at. But meanwhile, I'm still talking well with Turkey. But as you start to see here, Russia's position starting to look pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we'll move to the fall. Turkey told me he'd support me into Greece. He asked me to tap Serbia, so I was lucky to take 2.
Didn't we talk about? Isn't there like a drawing about this exact move? That well, I think I've seen it before.
Yeah, that was from the season 4 finals where Conk did this. I didn't expect to get into Serbia though, and of course I'm totally aware of the situation of what Turkey could do to me, and the situation there. France
Yeah.
told me he was going to hold. He did, but he keeps saying England's making me do this. England's making me do that.
Yeah.
So okay, Germany takes Warsaw. Austria moves to Galicia. So you can sort of see what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so France is so they moved Germany out, which the one thing I'm happy is that this isn't an actual Western triple, but Germany should have had, when he sees England build 2 fleets. I mean, like, what is he? It feels like people don't understand the mid game. Even if England does take St. Petersburg, like, the easy next thing to do is to eat up Germany. And so, yeah, he should have built a fleet. I'm glad to see that the Western Triple didn't last, but yeah, it didn't take much to understand that this was what was about to happen. So
Meanwhile,
and
I'm a little
yeah,
hopeful that France might turn on England, but isn't really in position to do it.
he even
Uh,
walked into Kiel. Like, come on, Germany.
so
So what is he down? He's down to 1 center. It's
yeah,
fall 1902 and he's down to 1. Oh my word. He probably got an award for this.
so this was brutal on Germany,
Yeah.
and down to 2 units
Oh,
there.
2. Yeah, he got Warsaw. Okay.
Meanwhile, Russia's very upset at Germany and is reacting uh, not with a sort of not with the 3 C's, cool, calm, and collected. And he's very hard to work with at this point. But I think it's not so bad for you, Russia. I mean, you saw my other Russian game. You can always, come back and try and make something out of it here. But now Austria obviously is very upset at this whole point, and tells me I've betrayed him and that everything he can do against me he's going to do. So that explains my army build and my fleet build there. So I'm all in with Turkey at this point.
Mm-hmm. So you will probably not be soloing this game.
Probably not, but I'm not sure I had a better path forward. But now I'm sitting here looking at 2 fleets with France, a strange alliance with Turkey, and an Austria who hates me.
I wonder what France is going to do. See, yeah, I don't know. So what I would do, so to tell you, if I'm France, what I would do is I would work with you and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And then in the fall, I would move on England. I would throw my fleets up and get ready in 1904 to convoy some armies on and just go at it, is probably what I would do, because I would know that there's no way that if I give you space, you might fight Turkey and I might have a chance to take that out. I don't think, we'll have to see, but that's probably what I would do in that situation. And yeah, I don't know how much you're going to get long term from Austria, because you're probably going to be taking centers, and as you take centers, I'm going to guess Turkey's going to be taking some of yours, maybe.
Well, we'll see. We'll see here. But I can tell you that my conversations with France were, I mean, this is what France is telling me, is that England's demanding X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, I really didn't believe that excuse. Because you could just tell France was a good player talking to France. But I was trying to convince him that the English move makes sense. I go, let me work on my side of the board here. You're limiting my options. By doing this.
Did you tell him? Did you give him like, hey, do this instead?
I just said attack, but I didn't give him the option. But he could have convoyed. I mean, he could have set up a convoy clearly if he wanted to. But he was not going. I mean, all my conversations with France were basically France telling me how England demanded X, Y, and Z, and that sort of led to a mistrust, because like I said, I didn't believe him on that point, and so I believe that he really was coming against me. As you can see here, he moves to Tyrol, he moves to Western Med, he moves to Lyon. I mean, he's at it.
Yeah. sometimes in those situations, the best thing, rather than just trying to do that, like sketching out exactly what they need to do to make the stab, helping people visualize that can sometimes help. But yeah, he's obviously seems pretty committed. Though I think this was, you can see here, if he makes his move, he could have a chance to do some things. I would lean with Russia maybe doing that. I mean, I'm working maybe with Russia or Germany to keep England from growing, and then getting that convoy to start working. So yeah, I mean, I'm not against what France did. It's just I feel like he might be limiting his potential, perhaps. So you continue with Austria, and Turkey's wanting to get some of that stuff. So it's spring right now. Yeah, let's see what happens in the fall. I want to see if.
Correct. I mean, the main thing here is I'm pitching to Turkey. Look, we've got an EF, and he sees that. I need to send my fleet back. We need to work together, and I know you need to grow. So let's figure out how to do that. And to be fair, Turkey's saying that as much as I am, if not more. But you can see.
Convoy, yeah, he got it anyway. Yeah. Well, hey, that was good. So you're getting a build off this, huh?
I'm getting a build, which obviously I knew, which is the reason I sacrificed Tyrrhenian Sea to take Tunis. And I let Greece into the Turkey into the Ionian intentionally, knowing I would build in Naples, that he probably wouldn't dot grab me, but to point out, to save me from the bigger threat.
Yeah. The issue here, and so England's going to opportunistically looks like he's opportunistically taking, I don't think Belgium was agreed on in the move to the English Channel, but yep, he's getting that, and looks like he's getting a build on top of it, and so that's going to probably be an army, and
well, three builds. Look at England. He gets Belgium, Berlin, and St. Petersburg.
See, if France could have made his move in the fall, protected German's unit, and I don't know. This is like Hungry Hippo.
Technically, England gets 4 builds, right? Because he's in Kiel also.
Yeah, this is incredibly opportunistic, but with how some people are playing, I think he's going to get away with it.
So now this was sort of the best news for me with England's 4 builds.
Right.
So it was, France clearly sees the problem now. And I feel like I'm not in a, horrible position, but England's got 11, so everyone's a little worried about England at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
We moved to the spring. Turkey had talked about Tunis. Mm-hmm. I said, fine, move there. It'll help us with fleets. And at this point, France, Turkey, and myself are totally coordinating. And so we agreed to this.
I like that. I like moving Turkey to Tunis because it's going to make you feel better about Greece. You're taking the Ionian. I like that move set. I think that's good.
I never mind my adjacent allies getting out in front of me, right? Mm-hmm. I knew I could take it back anytime I wanted to.
Right.
There was a misorder by Turkey on the convoy, if you notice.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, this was all sort of arranged. But Turkey there made an error accidentally on the orders. Now it's sort of everybody against England. Austria's like, hey, I'll do whatever, just keep me alive. Russia's the same way. So they're really no threats. And this is a pure coordination. And you can see in the winter, at this point, Turkey does get the right convoy order in. Russia agrees to that move for Turkey. I I still have position on Tunis, but didn't want to betray. And then I took Budapest. Russia told me he just wanted to stay in as long as he could at this point, and he was fine with that. And I agreed to get Austria back to Vienna.
Okay.
There.
So I don't know if I like. I'm not sure if I like that Serbia to Budapest rather than. Well, I get what you do. Serbia to Budapest, yeah, with support. I get what you're trying to do. I think I would have probably taken Vienna because I don't think you want. I don't know. I would prefer having a stronger Balkan presence and not leaving Serbia and Greece, not having an army there. I think that's a pretty vital spot. I would have probably tried to maybe bounce Austria and Vienna and then take Budapest with Trieste. That's probably not what Turkey would like, but you're building a stronger core. But again, Turkey, maybe he's comfortable letting you be the lead on this. I don't know.
Well, I should say, I think in retrospect, I gave this almost no thought. We were so concerned about what to do with the fleets, with France and the rest of it, and that took so much time to work all that out that the Balkans was really left to me to decide. Turkey didn't care, and I could have made any decision I wanted. And in retrospect, I think this was a massive mistake, moving Serbia up as opposed to Trieste or moving to Vienna. I agree with that analysis.
It's he's going to be behind you, and eventually, if he and he may not want to make a run on it. I don't know where he was at in the meta for the tournament, but if he sees that England's going to board top anyway, he might say, "Hey, why do I care to stab?" But to me, it's not the most optimal, play.
This is a part of the conversation, right? Which is, and it comes up right now, sort of starting in 1904, and this is this diplomatic issue I have with Turkey, which is early on. He told me that he board topped his first game, and that in order to win the tournament, he needed to board top this one. And that's what he wanted to do.
Right.
And the way I reacted to that was by saying, well, even if I board top, I can't win, right? But I'm looking to play with you and have a good time. Meanwhile, I told you I would have worked with Austria, and all of that. But Russia really was equivocating. And so Turkey around this time brings up that conversation with me. And he's like, you're getting to 8. I'm way away from a board top. Or I think he's getting to 7. I'm 7, and so we start talking about it at this point. And he's never given up on that goal. I know that's his goal, and I probably should have been more defensively minded at that point, but I was going along with this sort of facade I told him of, I'm happy for you to have the board top, blah, blah, blah. He builds armies, which is understandable, but nerve-wracking to me.
Right.
As you can see, I know I can get Tunis back, but man, everything else has got problems when you start thinking about it. And I got France now sort of locked in battle with England. And here's where it starts to go awry. Go ahead.
And that's the thing. You got to do something. So if you want to keep growing, if you want to top this board, is that the case? Were you wanting to top the board?
I would have liked to have topped the board, but it wasn't my number one priority, to be honest with you. I mean, of course I want to top the board, and I want to, but I don't want to give Austria the win.
You mean
my either one, England or sorry, I say Austria, I meant Turkey. Either give Turkey or England the win, right? And I don't want to be, I'd like to bottle up England. England's got a good presence up there, but I still think there's some damage that can be done. Meanwhile, England's on the phone with me at this point. It's really the first time we've talked. And he goes, hey, I've locked it down. I'm sticking at 11 or at worst 10 for the rest of this game. Turkey's only going to be able to grow through you. We need to force a draw on Turkey. Turkey's not going to accept a draw. I 100% know that, having talked to Turkey, about this. No way is he accepting a draw. He wants centers. And this is the difference, I think, between a world champion and someone like me as almost, I think Village Idiot said this about me, which is probably true. I don't want people to think bad of me, but a world champion doesn't care about that. World champion's confident and wants to do what a world champion wants to do. Whereas, so this instinct to want to be liked, maybe it's some psychological problem I have. I struggle with in my game, but here we are.
Coincidentally, the people that, like, if you want to be liked by the players that are world champions and really good, it's actually by playing the game to win. Because even though they'll say a whole bunch of things in the game, like if you do well, then game's over and they're like, you know what, that was good. You didn't fall for that. You didn't do this. And there's a lot of what really people don't like, at least your best players, are people that don't play to win, because it's impossible. If people are playing for other reasons, it creates a board dynamic that is incredibly frustrating. Like, I can understand if someone's playing to win, but if you're not doing that, that can be kind of tough. Though, let me say, you can play diplomacy for whatever reason you want. It's not that it's wrong to play that. It's just it can be really frustrating for people that are trying to be able to win, because everybody respects someone who wins the game or strives to win the game. But that can be a little bit tough. But I think there's a way to play with that play style too. I think there's a more defensive, maximize my chances without being as cutthroat, that I think it's good. It's when someone opens themselves up to massive stabs. That's way more frustrating than someone who plays much more cautiously and says, you know what, I know I'm not as much a manipulator, but I'm gonna play this so I get my best result. Maybe that's the way to say it. Striving to get the best result. And sometimes for some, that's playing a little more defensively, and I get that. But it's those massive stabs that people open themselves up to that can be frustrating, because you can't control that really, especially in a face-to-face. You just don't have as much time really. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
So as we move to the spring 1905, Turkey, as you can see, we forced Brest for France. Turkey was like, I really don't like your position on me in Tunis. And I'm thinking to myself, of course you don't. He's like, please move to Naples. Please move to Naples. And the whole time so I agree, but the whole time I'm thinking, oh, he's going to move his armies up. This is going to be bad. So that's why I bounced in Vienna to give myself a little defensive cover. I got lucky again. Turkey misorders another convoy. And does not move to Romania. But meanwhile, I'm just telling Turkey, take Moscow, take Warsaw, let me work on Spain and Marseille. We'll mess with that. And so I think this tentativeness was a big problem with me, because I think at this point I was still buying into the England's a threat business. And England really wasn't a threat to me. Turkey was the threat. But I had a good relationship with Turkey. I wanted him to do well. But I didn't see a way I could board top, right? I didn't see that I could get – I saw a way where I could get into war with Turkey, but I didn't see where I could board top at this point.
Yeah, but, getting into a war with Turkey would then just bring the game to a conclusion probably. And so you can let France do their thing. I mean, let England and France fight. And if France really starts to my guess is David is going to, if he's board topping, he's going to make the deal. And so if you wanted the game to end, it's probably get into a fight with Turkey. You could take Tunis back and grab Vienna. That's going to push you to 9. And then maybe if you make some headway on Turkey, maybe you do have a chance to board top. Maybe there's some other things for you to grab. But yeah, this to me would probably make me upset if I was England. So I'd say
he was pretty upset. I mean, he's
Yeah.
calling me, right? And he's trying every lever he has. He's complimenting me. You've played a great game. You've done everything, but it's over. It's stopping here, and I see that, but I also don't mind Turkey doing well. I like Nikolai really well. And at this point, I know I can't win. I can't board top. I can't solo. And so I resolved to help Turkey, in his quest, but I don't want to be the victim of that. And that's what I told Turkey on our chats. Turkey now gets into Romania as we move into the fall 1905. This was a big disappointment to me. We could have forced Mid-Atlantic, but France stopped. France decided at this point that he's had enough. All of those moves with England were arranged, and the board stops there. And France announces with England, we're ready for the draw. France says, I'm happy to be 4th. Okay. At this point, I'm like, 3rd, fine, let's get it over with. But Turkey's like, no, we got to keep going. I said, fine, Turkey, take Moscow, take Warsaw, take all of that if you want. You can move 1 dot up on me and be 2nd, or instead of me being tied for 2nd, I'd be 3rd. I didn't really care. And Turkey's like, well, 2nd's not going to do anything for me. I have to board top.
Right.
I have to. And if I'm like telling Turkey at this point, no, except the draw, then in my head, I'm thinking either Turkey's just going to fight this war with me because I'm not on his side, but I'm really not on his side at this point. I'm kind of frustrated. So maybe I shouldn't have moved Budapest here. Maybe I should have moved Trieste. But
okay.
Anyways.
So it's France saying to England, hey, or saying to you guys, if you guys don't draw, I'm going to give more units to England?
No, he's just saying, I'm done. I'm locking it up with England.
Is this game 2?
Yes.
Yeah, it's always. Now, I respect exactly what Turkey's doing. He knows he needs first. He knows that's what he needs to win, and I respect exactly what he's doing. And, there's nothing wrong if you really like someone saying, hey, I'll help you board top. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I personally, I would like to board top, but if it's game 2 and I know there's no way that I'm going to possibly win, I mean, if I like somebody a lot, I don't mind helping them get a better position. There's nothing wrong with doing that. In my personal opinion, I don't mind that. It's when you have a chance to do really well that can bug you a little bit. It all depends. I don't know. It really depends on the person, I suppose. I generally always am going to play as hard as I can and get the best result that I can, regardless of
other people's position. Umbo, you there? All right.
Yeah.
So moving to the winter, and at this point, it's almost pro forma. It's the same discussion with everybody about a draw. Move into the spring. At this point, I arranged this with Turkey because I tell Turkey we can't take anything off them. They're on the line in the Med. You can take Warsaw.
He says, but I can take something off you, though.
Right. And I said, I don't want to do that. Okay. I go, I don't want to give you a dot, so you can advance. That's just not the way I want to play it. But as many dots as you can get, I'll help you get other dots. And it was very clear that EF were locked in at this point. So Turkey goes, or I think I suggested this actually. He goes, well, what's it going to take? And I go, well, I'm not going to give you a dot. I go, but what I will do is pretend that we're fighting, if you want to do that, to see if England or Russia moves. So this is how this sort of came about, and he was fine with that. And meanwhile, I make my move, and I know I'm going to lose a dot, either Greece or Serbia, if I need to. And so this is where this sort of came about in the fall of 1906, which gave Turkey one more than me. At that point, it was essentially over. I finished third. I finished third cooperatively, basically giving Turkey that extra dot, even though that's not what I would have, preferred. I thought about at this point not accepting a draw, but I decided not to do that, and we finish. And those are the drawers, with a third place for Italy, France in fourth, England winning, and Turkey second. It did not get Turkey I think he finished top 5, but he was right. He needed a board top to place for sure.
Yeah. How did he take it once the game was over?
He was disappointed.
I know how that feels like. So
I could tell he was disappointed.
I was the last 2 ones that I was in. Actually, the last 3 tournaments I was in, I've gotten fourth, and it's been just a few centers. It's always been just a center or 2, and it is one of the most depressing places to be in when it was literally just a center or 2 that cost you from getting that. And it is very easy to have feelings of bitterness in your hearts toward the person that cost you it. So
in any event, I think I finished top 3rd roughly in the tournament. I enjoyed it. It was a frustrating tournament. 2 Western, well, it wasn't really a Western triple in this game, but a kind of a Western triple. But again, it's good to continue to get experiences in these virtual tournaments. I think I really enjoy the format, and I've made a lot of contacts. So if anyone out there is thinking, should I do a virtual tournament? I think that's an unequivocal yes for me. I've started to enjoy it more than my online games and my online presence, and it helps to have a short memory. In the online games, I don't have a short memory so much. I obsess a little bit. But Humble, thank you very much for the commentary on the game. It's much appreciated. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com for sponsoring us. And I'll leave you, Humble, with any go check out diplomats.net, thediplomats.net. And Humble, I'll leave you with any final words.
Yeah, I second what you're saying. I encourage people to participate. The Weasel Moot tournament, which is, I think, one of the best tournaments on the North America circuit. They're the Chicago group. They're having their annual tournament, and they're doing it a little different, which I think I kind of like. They're doing a 2-round tournament and a final board. So they have they will be doing the first one on August 29th, and it'll be at least in more in the evening when it comes to Central Time. Then they're going to do one September 5th, and then the final board will be on September 6th if you make it there. So it'll be a 1 round each Saturday. I tentatively am planning on being a part of it, so maybe you'll meet me on the board and you can see how good of an ally I am. I am a pretty good ally, I like to think, and just play straight up and we'll be good. So
you're a good ally until you're not, which is what all great diplomacy players are.
Well, maybe the way to say it is, if you play a strong game, I will be a good ally with you the whole game. So, and by the way, too, the scoring system really dictates a lot how you play. So if it's a draw-based or ranking-based like Carnage is, this one's going to be Tribute. And Tribute's a newer scoring system, and it's all about board topping. You get way more points than the other people if you board top. So I foresee it's going to be a very different type of play style you're going to find on Tribute. So
well, I'm signed up for that tournament, and I look forward to playing. And are you going to be participating?
Yeah, I tentatively have signed up to be a part of it, and I currently am planning to do that. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Humble, and have a good evening.
All right. Have a good evening too.